Wondering whether to buy Star Wars Outlaw? Well, don't fear. Here are 5 easy signs that it's a piece of shit. Star Wars Outlaws, a game in which the focal point is not being put in the shoes of a Jedi or a Sith, but more so a regular person from the galaxy. Now, that may seem bad at first, but think about the alternatives. Lightsabers are off the table, but everything else isn't. So, for example, maybe we can have Boba Fett's jetpack, allowing us to soar through the sky, or Cad Bane's rocket boots, allowing us to get to hard-to-reach places and traverse in and out of combat. And that's just traversal. Think about the weapons, like for example, those wrist cables, allowing us to restrain people and pull them through the air. Or how about the cool flamethrower coming out of the gauntlets that all the bounty hunters seem to have, allowing us to burn through our enemies. And all the different sniper rifles, RPGs, bombs, and different equipments throughout the galaxy. I mean, there is so many choices we could make. We could make the perfect warrior outlaw, one not to be messed with. Or at least we could if Ubisoft had a functional brain. But because they don't, here's what we have instead.
KVS's loadout features a few grenades, a regular blaster, and most important of all, her fists. That's right, we're not playing as a regular female character, but the Mike Tyson of the Star Wars universe, able to knock out fully grown men with a single punch, no matter if they're wearing armor or not. I mean, why waste effort and creative income on coming up with melee weapons when you can have a 5-foot-tall female throw a couple of epileptic punches and knock out everyone and everything she comes across? As far as the blaster is concerned, the aim is a bit tricky. Often even a direct hit to the head won't be a one-shot kill, depending on the distance, and there's no natural way to zoom in while aiming. The shooting mechanics are not great, but they're not awful either. I would say they're about average in my opinion. However, the fact that you can't carry any rifles you find with you after picking them up from the ground is really stupid. You can't even climb a wall or perform melee without K-dropping the weapons. It's embarrassing. But who needs combat when you have stealth? Stealth in this game is like a game of Russian roulette. Sometimes guards can see you from miles away, and other times they can see you while you're standing right in front of them. K's pet partner Nyx can be used to distract enemies, attack them, or sabotage containers to create an explosion. And although he's useful, K herself is anything but. The only place she can hide are bushes, and because guards will fully spot you from a single glimpse, that leaves you very exposed to getting caught. Especially because Nyx can only review a few enemies at a time, only lasting for a few seconds, and without a minimap, it's hard to keep track. Enemy routes are very unpredictable, and with an extremely unforgiving guard AI that does not allow replays, it can make stealth encounters a living nightmare. As far as transportation is concerned, you do have a speeder bike, which likes to oversteer a lot, and in combination with once again not having a minimap, it can be miserable trying to find your way into certain areas or avoiding gang territories. Oftentimes, you just blindly ride in the direction of an objective and hope you find the correct pathway when you get there. The lack of minimap is especially noticeable in interior settings, however, ones that have a lot of different pathways and exits. Throughout the world, you see all types of vehicles and even animals that are being ridden by NPCs. However, you are only limited to your speeder bike, and it's impossible to take someone else's form of transportation, because, as we all know, an outlaw would never steal someone else's property.
Very feminine indeed. And speaking of that, the lack of creativity alone is a head scratcher. I mean, how creatively bankrupt do you need to be to have the entire Star Wars extended universe in the palm of your hands, and the best you can come up with are epileptic punches for your melee, a single blaster for your combat and a single bike for your traversal. It's embarrassing. And speaking of embarrassing, yeah, this is bad, but the customization is a whole different level. It's a complete and total fun.
Now, given that this is a Star Wars game, you'd imagine there'd be plenty of original and legacy options, like the Mandalorian's high-tech armored suit, or Mara Jade's sexy black leather spy outfit, or Princess Leia's white royal robes, or maybe even Aura Singh's outlaw orange jumpsuit, as well as plenty of original bounty hunter and outlaw-inspired female outfits. But no, nothing like that. Because why would you want to dress a female character in feminine clothes when you can dress her up like a lesbian construction worker? Of course, Star Wars Outlaws gives a new meaning to the term defeminization. You may not be able to play with a male character, but you'll surely be dressed like one. And outside of clothes, there's a small customization for holsters, blaster recolors, not even new blasters, just recolored variants, and Nyx's accessories and treats.
No haircut options, but why would you need any for a female character with a strange puro-like haircut as a default option? No gloves, no helmet, no mask. Why would a thief ever use a mask? No goggles, and no color options. The customization in Star Wars Outlaws is like the menu at a local petrol station. Very little variety and nothing you want. So, let's move on from this embarrassment to an even bigger one, which in this case is the story. And, for a lack of a better term, it is absolute hell.
The story of Star Wars Outlaws, without getting into spoilers, is about Kay Vess's dream of pulling off heists and becoming a great thief. We see her being raised from a very early age to become a thief, so you'd imagine after all the training she's had, she would be a superior infiltrator and a professional burglar by the time we get to play as her. But the story clearly shows otherwise. It speaks to Kay Vess failing multiple times in recent heists, and once we're given control of her, the first hour of the story time is spent with every heist she touches turning into an alarm-ringing, blaster-shooting mess. She's continuously shown as an incompetent thief and liar, lacking conviction and character. Throughout the story, she's shown as an arrogant and overly cocky individual that talks a big game but can rarely back it up. Someone who lacks any deep, meaningful motivation or reason for her actions. Someone who just wants to steal for the sake of stealing. Consistently boring and lackluster in her presentation. And when it comes to the main villain, surprise surprise, it's a rich and powerful, straight white man who goes after Kay due to her failed heist on his property that leads to the escape of an important prisoner he held captive. His motivations are far more reasonable than Kay Vess's desire to just steal things for the sakes of it, and because of that, the story never feels that immersive, as it's a lot easier to relate to the villain than it is to Kay. The story lacks stakes. It feels more like a children's cartoon with Dora the Explorer and her furry pet than it does a gritty dramatic tale of the Star Wars underworld. Kay's consistent lack of character development and personality makes her impossible to relate to on a human basis, and her complete defeminization that has her act like a cocky 13-year-old boy instead of a grown woman makes her a rather dislikable character, which is unfortunate given that she's the main protagonist of the entire game.
I haven't seen this dislikable of a main protagonist since DMC Devil May Cry back in 2013, and at least that Dante could back up the crap he was saying. Kay often cannot. The story lacks narrative, it lacks entertaining characters and real stakes. it's a bad story. But honestly, I don't think it could have ever been made good. And it all has to do with the character of Kay Vess, who behaves like a total bitch.
Remember 2 years ago, when Saints Row the reboot came out, how everyone laughed and mocked Volition for putting a bunch of skinny hipsters in the role of street gangsters, yet they looked and behaved like a bunch of Twitter activists, and no one took them seriously. The reason people laughed at them is because when you make a certain character designed for a role, that character needs to look the part, and when they don't, it's an obvious mismatch. Kay Vess has that same problem tenfold. She's put into the role of a galaxy outlaw that can hold her own against the toughest bounty hunters and stormtroopers, yet she looks like a 14-year-old gender-neutral hipster. Throughout the Star Wars extended universe, we've seen plenty of female characters who would fit that role far better than Kay Vess does, from Juno Eclipse to Bo-Katan, Iden Versio, Aura Singh, and countless others. All of them look and behave like grown women that are both beautiful and feminine, but also capable and intelligent. Kay Vess is none of those things. I will never understand why the way we're supposed to represent women in 2024 is by eradicating all of their feminine features, both physically and mentally, dressing them like men, making them talk and act like men, even spreading their legs when they sit on a chair, removing any possible romance options because they don't fit their manly character, and worst of all, eradicating any personality from their character, making them boring passengers in a mind-numbingly dull story.
Easily the most forgettable character I've ever picked up, and I know she's supposed to be like a female Han Solo, but when you take away Han Solo's personality, he's just a guy running around with a blaster, and boy, if that description doesn't fit Kay Vess to a T, I don't know what does. And someone out there may say, well, what's so bad about having a non-feminine female character? Not all women are feminine in real life, and that's true. But the problem is, when you make your main character a non-feminine female or a non-masculine male, you alienate 95% of your audience, and it's a lot harder to resonate with them unless you give them really good motives and personality. Two things which Kay Vess completely lacks. Let's just get to the final chapter. This character is a motherfucker.
After a successful installation, I launched the game to find myself in a forever loading screen. I restarted the game, but alas, nothing had really changed. After updating my drivers and verifying my game files, I went back into the game, and as you'd expect, nothing had really changed. However, after a short 10 minutes of loading time, I was successful at entering into Star Wars Outlaws. I was struck by its highly detailed environments and went on to my first mission to pull off my very first heist. The heist didn't go well, but the getaway was specifically problematic, as making my way through the city, I found myself into an unready area of the map where I fell into the abyss and ended up in another lengthy loading screen. Upon restarting the game, I was able to complete my heist and enjoy some very high quality cutscenes that were running with the blistering speed of 1 frame per second. Upon exploring the new destination, however, I couldn't prevent myself from enjoying the highly detailed environments, but sadly I went too deep and got stuck, with my character being killed once again and ending up in yet another never-ending loading screen.
You will be glad to know that I was able to fix the game after I reinstalled it into my SSD drive, like it says in the menu. However, you only see that in the menu after you've already installed the game the first time. So if you've installed it anywhere else, you're sort of bound to reinstall it. And honestly, how many people out there have 60 gigabytes free in their SSD? It's not many. And also, with the game not releasing on the Steam platform and being exclusive entirely to Ubisoft's little platform, a lot of people really didn't buy this game. It was a bit of a financial disaster, so much so that investors pulled out and Ubisoft stock dropped to a 10-year low. It's just another chapter in the tragic tale of Ubisoft's never-ending failures. A studio that has all the tools necessary to make incredible games, yet consistently releases turds, one after the other. I don't know how many times they need to fail and how many times they can't even break even before they realize they're doing something wrong. That much I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that our next project will be the exact opposite of this one. Instead of a giant developer that can't get their shit together, we're gonna be looking at a developer that started from nothing, that created a game that was a passion project, that had no other interests outside of being great. Yet, it was constantly haunted by cancel culture and people wanting it to fail. So, until next time, thank you all so very much for watching. This has been Wild Goat, and I'll see you all in Blacksmith
Sweet
Wukong.
destiny.